Flipkart, big saving days, 20th.
Sushanta, she is another important dignitary. She is here with us. You are welcome, ma'am. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, we will start at 6 p.m. We are just waiting for the.
Sure.
Kuri Maggie. They were he got lost of them. When I shot me. When I shot me. मैं भी हूँ फिर से आपको लिंक मैं भेजता हूँ फिर से आपको लिंक मैं भेजता हूँ
We will be starting in a short while, sir. Okay. We have Mr. Sumeet Mohanty with us, another dignitary. Thank you for joining us, sir. And Professor Ramdendra as well. Thank you, Dr. Vani.
Thank you, Professor Vani.
Most welcome, sir. A very good evening to one and all. Now we are here for the last session for this day. The last session for today, though we have a two-day conference, so we'll be coming back tomorrow also. So for now, we can start this plenary session, the plenarium. Before I start, I'd like to have the permission from our head, Department of Humanities, Social Science and Management, Professor Rahul. Sir, can we proceed?
Good evening, everybody. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. First of all, I'd like to thank Professor Rahul for guiding us through. Now, I'd like to introduce everyone to all the dignitaries that we have today with us for this plenary session, which is a part of International Conference on Contemporary Business Trends 2021. First of all, I'd like to tell that the dignitaries will be sharing their views about the much needed improvisation for the MBA programs in the contemporary times, and how exactly we can improve such management programs in order to deal and solve the problems that we face at regional and national level. How exactly we can improve as academicians for a better contribution for us. So, as I have said earlier, we have 5 important dignitaries with us, starting with Professor Sushanta Mishra. Just his brief profile. Professor Mishra is currently working as the Dean of Research and the Professor in the OBN HRM area at Indore. He is the recipient of many awards and recognition for his contribution to academia from many institutions of repute such as University of Michigan and Ahmedabad, Academy of Management, Emerald Publishers, to cite a few. He is in the editorial and review board in many reputed international journals. He was nominated as the first young faculty chair at Indore. He has received the Best Teacher Award at Indore. He is member of the Academic Council of Adani Institute of Infrastructure Management, Ahmedabad, and Vice President-elect of Indian Academy of Management. Apart from Indore, he regularly teaches at ISB Hyderabad. He has conducted many management development programs for senior leaders in government, PSUs, defense, and private organizations. We welcome you, sir. Thank you. Next, we have Professor Ramdendra Singh. Professor Ramdendra Singh is Associate Professor of Marketing at Calcutta. He completed PhD from Ahmedabad, MBA from Jammu, and BTech from IIT BHU. His research has been published in reputed international journals, including International Marketing Review, Marketing Theory, Industrial Marketing Management, Journal of Person Selling, and Sales Management, Journal of Business and Industrial Marketing, Journal of Information Technology. Professor Ramdendra has previously worked for several years in sales and marketing responsibilities in several multinational companies. He has also authored a textbook on sales and distribution management, which has been widely adopted in MBA programs at various times. He has conducted several training programs at senior level and middle level management for several organizations. Sir, we welcome you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Professor Abrar Saiyed. He has accomplished his fellowship in management from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. His specialization is in strategy, entrepreneurship, and international business. He has a teaching experience of 8 years in reputed government and private B schools and education institutes in India. His contributions in the field of research has been great, which is evident from the fact that his paper has been selected in the European Academy of Management, that's in called the Entrepreneurship Research Conference, Eastern Academy of Management, Academy of International Business, European International Business Academy, and Indian Academy of Management, and has also won the Best Paper Award in the Ahmedabad Doctoral Colloquium in 2030. He has served as a consultant to Industrial Commissioner and Industrial Extension Bureau, Gujarat Government, ESL Logistic. He has been working as a consultant to Center for Heritage Management, Cooperative Federation of Handicrafts of Self-Employed Women Association, that is called SEWA. It is the biggest self-employed women NGO in India, and many other organizations to heritage, art and culture. He also teaches courses using old city markets and community-based business to many international students. He is also a resource person teaching strategy and management development program in crafting luxury and lifestyle business in Ahmedabad. He has keen interest in social work and promoting local heritage and culture. He is also the founder of Association of Muslim Entrepreneurs to help Muslim small business and entrepreneurs to overcome their day-to-day challenges and problems. Sir, we welcome you. Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Sakhi Chhabra. Dr. Chhabra is a professor at IIM Sambalpur. She has completed her fellow program from Management Development Institute, MBA, Gurgaon. She has Masters in Marketing from Manchester Business School, UK, and Bachelor's in Commerce from SRCC at Delhi University. She has qualified UGC NET and achieved 5th rank all India. She has been teaching core and elective marketing subject to postgraduate students and executive at various MBA institutes like IIM Rohtak, Ekfai Business School, IBS Gurgaon, Soil Gurgaon, North Cap University, to name a few. She has successfully published research papers, case studies, and book chapters in renowned international and national journals. She has also written articles of newspaper, blogs, and magazines. She has presented her research work at various reputed conferences in India and abroad. She has organized academic conferences and conducted workshops on case study writing and design thinking. She has been a mentor to students for internship and various clubs. She has keen interest in case study writing and has many cases to her credit, including one in Harvard. Her main research interest is digital marketing, marketing of higher education, and customer loyalty. Ma'am, we welcome you. Next, we have an entrepreneur with us, Mr. Sumeet Mohanty. Mr. Mohanty is the founding director at Phycolinc Technologies Private Limited, a biotechnology startup company that works towards promoting environmental remediation and sustainable agriculture through the use of disruptive microbial products. Mr. Sumeet's company was one amongst the top 3 most innovative companies in the country at Vibrant Gujarat, as well as one among the top 10 startups in terms of social impact. Mr. Sumeet is a biochemical engineer from IIT Kharagpur. Sir, we welcome you.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to ask Professor Mishra to come up with his views.
Well, I hope I am audible there.
Sir.
So before I start, my thanks to Dr. Aries for contacting me, the arranging committee of the International Conference on Contemporary Business Trends for putting together such a beautiful conference, NIT Srinagar to invite me and giving me a platform to share my thoughts. I am also thankful to the esteemed participants for hearing us on this weekend, also in the evening time. So this is about the management education, MBA, future of MBA. So what I have decided is I'll share with you the challenges that the MBA programs we are facing, and also there are some silver lining to handle these challenges. So if I may so, then I can start with my presentations. Should I start?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. So I'll take around 5-7 minutes to share with you what are the challenges, and then I'll come up with what are the initiatives people have taken at different levels. And one of our panelists also one of these persons who have taken some initiatives to do something different in ensuring that there is some holistic education. Now, as all of you know, education, people say it should be holistic, right? And a major challenge that the MBA program, the education is to develop the ability to use their management skills, not only learn, but to use that management skills. Because people say there is a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. We give a lot of gyan to our students, they know, conceptually they understand, but how do they apply that? How do they contribute to the society? That part only the MBA education is not giving. That's one big limitation. Second one is holistic. We talk about in different silos. For example, marketing, OBHR, finance, we come and teach them in silos, but we never told them how to handle a management problem. Management problem never comes with saying it is a OB problem or a marketing problem. So the limitation is, can we impart some holistic education to our participants? These are the limitations. A lot of activities happening around what can the MBA institutions do. So group of professors like Datta and his team, they come up with 3 aspects. They say that way, can you talk about management and education in terms of knowing, being and doing? Right? We spend a lot of time on knowing things, conceptual knowledge. Similarly, the professors of Chicago booth, they came together, they talk about, well, conceptual knowledge, domain knowledge, and also action skills are important. Most of our educations are in the domain of conceptual knowledge. And that's the challenge. Probably we are not preparing the managers to handle the problems, maybe in the organizations. So there is a deliberate debate happening. What can we do to move from knowing to being to doing? And these are the challenges the management institutions in India are facing. So I want to try to highlight some elements that we are doing in some siloed approach that is happening in our country, in different institutions. I'll talk about 4 levels. Some silver lining is at the individual level. Some faculty members individually they have taken up some challenges to move from the conceptual level to understanding it, the domain knowledge, and also the action skills. So I put my thoughts in 4 different levels. One at the individual level, there is Professor Abrar Saiyed. He teaches a course called Sociology of Bazaar at Amrut Modi School of Management, Ahmedabad, where he takes the students to, as you know, Ahmedabad, there are many businessmen, many different traditions of business. So he takes the students along with him to give them that experience of how people do that business. That is one initiative he has taken, and also he is trying to spread that knowledge in different institutions. But primarily, this moving from knowing to being to doing is confined to one individual. Right? Similarly, a professor in Bangalore, he gives a course called Management Principles of Bhagavad Gita, where he tries to bring the experience of Mahabharata to the classrooms. Similarly, there is in Saiyed School of Management at IIT Bombay, they offer a course called Self-Awareness and Interpersonal Skills, where again they combine the pedagogic methods like the cases, the classroom discussions with the contemplative pedagogy, where they encourage students to contemplate, to reflect on the thought that is discussed in the class. But all these activities are at the individual level. And there is some other aspects where some departments they took charge to ensure that there is some other modes of learning, not just conceptual learning. For example, at Ahmedabad, they offer a course called Explorations in Role and Identity, that is called as ERI, where they think individuals, the learning requires some space, time, and also some other persons to share and learn. They call it Khan, Kal, and Patra, right? So, through this ERI, they take these people to some different places where they don't have any access to these mobile phones, and when they stay with others, then different locations out of all these day-to-day activities, and they interact with some people, they open up, they try to reflect on themselves, and that gives them a lot of learning opportunities. But that is taken care of by a department called OB department at IIM Ahmedabad. So when the faculty who started, when she left, other faculty members came forward to again pass on this learning to the respective students. Similarly, at XLI Jamshedpur, they offer a course called Indian Philosophy for Leadership Excellence. Again, the department takes charge and tries to communicate what can I do to ensure people move from conceptual to some being part, reflection or experiential learning. Similarly, at TIS Mumbai, they offer a course called NGO Block Fieldwork, Rural Practicum for MA, HRM and LR students, where again they take them to different NGOs. They go interact with NGOs, work with them so that the learning happens. So all the examples that I am sharing with you, they are not classroom learnings. There is a component where they go out from the classrooms because the learning is not confined to the classrooms. Third element, we said at the institutional level, at the organization level, at the university college levels, At IIM Indore, they offer a course called Rural Immersion Program, or they call it Rural Engagement Program, where all the students in their first year, they are supposed to go and stay at least for a week in the villages. Once they go and stay with them, they understand their difficulties and they are required to give some suggestions to the administration to make some improvements. And most of the MBA students, they don't know the life of villagers. So they want, through this course, they try to bridge the gap between the Bharat and the India. And students, the bright minds of this country, when they are exposed to these things, the learning happens. That is one that is offered at IIM Indore. Similarly, XISS at Ranchi, they also provide a course called Rural Retreat for their PM and IR students. Again, it is at institutional level. Similarly, Great Lakes Institute in Chennai, they offer a course called Leadership Experiential Action Program. Again, an experiential part is there. It is just not explanation part. People go through their experience of being. Right? These are happening at the institutional level, where all these courses are part of their compulsory requirement courses. The fourth level is another course that is offered at SPG in Mumbai, that they call as non-classroom learning, development of corporate citizenship. Again, this is at the institutional level. There is some institutions where it is also moving from institutions to a collective level. For example, this rural engagement program, now Himalayan outbound program. I have Indore started a program called Himalayan outbound program where students are supposed to go, it's a part of compulsory when it started, they're supposed to go to Himalaya, stay there in a group, so they know how do we manage with limited resources. How do I make interpersonal issues, right? That they know, and I am Bangalore also adopting this one. So it is moving from one institution to more institutions. So when it moves from individual faculty members to departments, then highly likely this program will stay. When it moves from a department to the institution level, then it gets formalized. And when it moves from one institution to multiple institutions, it gets the legitimacy. This is happening at different levels. But there are a lot of challenges are happening here. The challenge is, as we are moving from knowing to being to doing, or from exploration to experiences to learning, the demand on the faculty is huge. The faculty has to invest a lot of time and energy to ensure that learning happens at the student level. Number two, the academic community, the faculty members need to accept that this is a powerful way to train our students, to make them learn. The faculty members are not ready, or their priorities are also a little different, because there is a lot of focus on doing research, so they need to give that time so that learning of our students happen. And also mindset of institutions. Some institutions, they don't think this type of programs are actually adding value. Right? They think if I go and run some regressions, give some complex models, that is learning. But they fail to appreciate the importance of experiential learning. That's why a lot of debate is happening. Am I just telling them how to run mathematics, or we are creating leaders? So these are the challenges that is happening. But the good thing is, yes, there is some initiatives are happening at all these levels, individual level, department level, institution level, and also at the collective level. So yes, MBA, we need to change, we need to bring in holistic learning, we need to train our students to acquire the action skills. But yes, there is also some good thing. The institutions are coming forward to embrace those changes. With this short note, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful insights, and specifically mentioning about the collaboration in this field in academia, which is very important. Thank you so much, sir. I want to ask one question, sir. It's from my side only. I'm Irfana from Department of NIT Social Science and Management and NIT Srinagar. So my question is it's basically related with how exactly we can see that MBA program altogether. It's the most expensive programs among all when we go about, except the MBBS. But when we include about multiple collaborations and some other traveling, so this might definitely lead up to some more expenses. So any suggestions for compensating these expenses, sir? Thank you.
No, for example, the Himalayan outbound program that IIM Indore does, the students have to take care of most of the expenses. Right? And when you talk about India, it is actually not very expensive. But unfortunately, the course curriculum that we design at institutional level, it doesn't give that flexibility. Right? That is the challenge, not the finances. So if the institution believes in this type of education, then things will happen. And the faculty members, yes, they need to also take charge. It is not related to the money part. It is towards the mindset part.
True, sir. All right. Any other question from any other participant? So there is one question from Dr. Mohanty, who is a faculty member. How do you see the relevance of experiential learning at classrooms, particularly in MBA context?
Oh, well, as you know, the education that we did in undergraduate course, it is always teacher-centric. The teacher will come and give some lessons. So we say explanation is required. Teachers is to come and explain why this relation holds or the integration, right? That is the predominant way we learn in our undergrad courses. But we talk about learnings, for example, language skills. Nobody explained us. We learn it through our experiences. So that's why the management schools, they try to embed the experiential part. Not only explanation, how do I know how to walk? It is coming from our experiences. So experience is important. So case study method is one way that came, where we bring that case to the classroom, dissect it to understand what this manager will do. But it has its own limitations. Experiences are okay, but to have concrete learning, there should be some reflections. So the moving from explanation to experience is important, but also we need to embed some element of reflections. That's why we need to move from being to doing. Once we do something, there's something we learn. At this point of time, it's not happening. That's why the management education, we are thinking what can be done. So some leeways going, taking students to do something, be in that context, there's some initial steps are happening, but that's going to be the future. Or else, we may not be able to create leaders. Again, it will be bookish knowledge, conceptual knowledge.
Okay, thank you, sir. So if you're not having any question, we'll move on to our next dignitary, Professor Ramdendra Singh. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, and I also thank the conference organizers for allowing me to speak on this platform. I have a presentation. If you allow me, I can share that.
Yes, sir. We have your presentation with us. If you want, we can also share. You can also share, sir. Thank you.
So I think if you share from your side, that would be easier. So now I'm not able to share that.
No issues, sir. I'll just
share from your side.
Definitely, sir. I'll just share. Please let me know when you want to move the slide. I'll move. Is it visible?
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah. I think yeah, so everyone can see the slides, right?
Anyone can confirm?
So are the slides visible to everyone? Yeah, anyone can confirm, yeah. So Tarek, you can see the slide, right?
No, these are not visible, sir.
You just have to pin the presentation.
Those who are not able to see, please pin the presentation or the presenter. You will be able to see that.
Yeah, so if it is visible, should I start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me to speak on this topic of rethinking MBA. So I'll just take 10 minutes to share my thoughts. So can you just go to the next slide? So let me just start off by showing you how the MBA learning happens in the classroom. So most of us in the panel are faculty members, so they would be able to relate to this topic or this picture, and those of us who have done MBA, even if they are not faculty members, they would be able to relate to this. So this is how a typical MBA learning happens in an MBA class, right? And so you enjoy this process as long as you are a student, but believe me, once you become a faculty, you don't like looking at this picture, right? So this picture kind of summarizes, what's probably going wrong in the MBA education. So can we go to the next slide? So, given that this is how the learning happens in the classroom, and definitely, as Prof. Mishra also pointed out that for a program like MBA, probably the classroom is not the best method to teach. So we have to move from explanation to experiential learning. And so if that was what is being done in the B schools to teach our MBA students to become managers, which is very, very different reality from the one that is outside the B school. So if you look at the industry today or the whole evolution of the industry today, you see that the industry is actually moving to what is called the post-revolution, post-industrial revolution. And all these words that you see on these slides are actually picked up from World Economic Forum 2016 report. They have done survey of top managers across the world. And they have come out with these possible trends, which point out to the fact that how the industry is changing or has changed already. So you hear a lot of new terms and jargons like flexible work or cloud technology, big data. Then you have climate change, effect of climate change. Then you have geopolitical. So there's so many different realities which did not exist, several years back, like Internet of Things, and so on. So what I'm trying to come to is that with the changing reality, there's a very different world, and especially post-COVID, post-pandemic, it's a very different world that the future generation will have to be prepared for. And I think most of these schools are not, kind of themselves prepared to prepare the students for this kind of work. So can we go to the next slide? Next slide, please.
Yes, sir. I have changed. If you can see.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the big question is that the previous one, please. Yeah. So the big question is that while we are on the threshold of the fourth industrial revolution, as everybody is saying, and there's another fact that we are told that the today's school students, for example, those students who are studying in the school, they would be most of them will be doing jobs which don't exist today. So 10 years from now, half of the jobs would be the jobs that we have not even heard of today, right? So what will you prepare them for? And in that context, if you see the business management education, especially in India, and I think that's true for most parts of the world, is not really prepared, and at the same time, if you see the supply situation, which is the number of B schools, we have a glut of B schools. There are more than 2,000 business schools in India. And I don't have the concrete data, but my gut feel suggests that most of these business schools, including the top IIMs, are actually teaching the same stuff. But the exceptions that Professor Mishra was talking about, they're more or less teaching the same courses. They have similar faculty, similar. And if you look at IIMs, most of the IIMs have become glorified placement agencies. We hate to admit this, but and if that is the status of IIMs, I'm sure other business schools are not any better. So the business schools are largely, playing a role of placement agencies. So the higher admit students, and their rankings largely depend on who's offering better salaries and faster salaries and so on, faster placements and so on. So, and let's start reality. I just wanted to, bring them to the fore. And if you also look at the MBA curriculum in most B schools, including the IIMs, it's very, very West-centric. It's very pro North America, and it's pro capitalist. I'm not saying anything wrong. That's not definitely wrong, but that may or may not be relevant. So that may or may not be relevant in the context of India, if I talk from the Indian point of view. Yeah. And if you see the culture in the business schools, it's very, very, competition oriented. The curriculum is designed, deliberately designed to be very, very heavy. There's a deliberate, attempt to put the students under pressure. And I've been to 3 different business schools twice as a student and once as a faculty member here in Calcutta. So, I see the same trend, which I'm sure is there in all of these schools, that there is so many courses that the students are totally burdened with courses and classes and quizzes and presentations and exams, and there's hardly any learning happening there, right? So these are some of the, the not so nice reality of schools in India and largely all over the world. And then, as Prof. Mishra also raising the point that, are we really training our MBAs on skills, or should we train them for skills? Should we, which is about knowing, but then again, knowing can be about knowledge or skills, or it can be about both. But then again, as we are on the threshold of so-called fourth industrial revolution, we are not sure whether what we are teaching them today may or may not be relevant for tomorrow. So can we go to the next slide? So that is a big question mark, on the MBA program. But if you look at the MBA program, at least to me, it looks more like a black box. The typical, the characteristic of a black box is that we see something going in as an input, we see something coming out as an output, but we really don't know how it works. So many times, we kind of jokingly say that, we are not even sure whether as a faculty members we are adding any value to our students, because they're really coming, they're good quality students coming in, and the same quality goes out. And because we hire, or we take good quality students, we are not really sure whether, whether and how much of value we are adding to our students. So we're really not sure what is the kind of value addition that we're doing to the MBA students in 2 years. So MBA black box, that's what I'm calling it. So it's more like a black box. I'm sure it may, I hope it's not a black box, but it looks to me more like a black box. So if you look at the situation in India, for example, most business schools for the MBA program are using CAT. Some of them will be using other tests also. But look at CAT, which is the most popular admission test. 2019 or 20 data, I just taken, it shows that around 2.27 lakh students have taken CAT. Out of them, I think 2.27 registered, and 1.9 lakh students have actually written the CAT. Out of them, 35%, only 35% are female. So there is a skewness towards males. There is also, if you see the IIM classrooms, there is a skewness towards engineers. So 80 to 90% of the students are engineers. Other than that, there is a definite lack of diversity. So we are not really promoting diversity. And I see that year after year it's remains the same. So while that may not be the best way of judging candidates' suitability for the managerial program, in fact, recently, that may be true for many other tests. So recently, I was actually reading the views of some IIT professor who said that IIT may not be the best way of judging the suitability of students for becoming engineers. So I would agree with him, and I would similarly kind of have the similar feeling about CAT, that, the CAT may be one of the toughest exams to crack, but is it really suitable to filter students who should be allowed to be, so I'm not really sure of that. So, but we continue to use CAT without trying to understand whether it's a suitable test for admission to the schools. We continue to admit students who are mostly engineers. Most of them, half of the engineers are from IITs. The rest of the half, most of them are from other good engineering colleges. There are hardly any Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Commerce. There are, but very, very few. We see very, very few lawyers, very, very few doctors, very, very few architects, if at all we see them. So there is a definite lack of diversity. I've never seen a musician in the class, I've never seen a sculptor in the class, I've hardly seen any dancer in the class. So there is a definite lack of diversity, and that really creates some kind of homogeneity in the classroom. Everybody thinks in a very linear way. For everybody, largely managerial decision making becomes just a white graduates plus alpha kind of linear thinking. And we talk a lot, but if you look at the data, most times that I'm aware of, revise their curriculum only once in 10 years. And we are talking about standing on the threshold of fourth industrial revolution. But our curriculum is at least 10 years old, or maybe even older. Now, by that is on the high side, that we're talking about. But if you look at the demand side, the students probably, the way the executive can be, I'm not trying to blame anyone, but here maybe the students also can contribute, because most of the time the students come to the B schools and they're told by their seniors that they need to polish their CVs, they need to take the right courses, study in a smart way, get to maximize their effort and get the best marks and prepare themselves for placement. So with all of that grooming that is done by the batchmates and seniors, there's hardly any time left for learning, because again we're putting so much pressure on the students with so many courses and so many other things. And then if you see the external environment, the media plays its own role. So there are a host of B school ranking lists. Business schools are running after ranking, they chase rankings, and they put a lot of time, effort in coming number one B school or number two B schools. And most of these rankings are largely based on placement, the speed of placement, how soon the students are getting placed, or the average salary or the highest salary. So none of these rankings is talking about how innovative the teaching courses are, like Prof. Mishra was saying, or even the environment, the learning environment, anything that that's on the dimension of learning environment or students' ability to apply those concepts or the nature of pedagogy, etc. So none of these agencies are actually focusing on that. Unfortunately, it's only placements and salaries. And if you look at the recruiters, who are also partly to be blamed, who come to the campus, they just want to pick up the best, smartest guys, and they also would not like to, they don't want raw talent. They just want to pick up the students who are absolutely productive, who are ready, who are industry ready, so they will be productive when they join the company from day zero. So this is what our MBA education actually projects, which is show that it's not in the right shape right now. So can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so I don't have a solution, but these are some of the ideas I could think of. Obviously, the solution will be much more complex. So I don't know what is the way out of this conundrum, but definitely, as we see, the MBA education is moving from 2 years to 1 year. So because of opportunity cost and other issues, the MBA program, probably the 2-year program may or may not sustain in the long run. So it may become a 1-year program, and we're seeing a lot of 1-year programs coming up. And when it comes to curriculum, definitely, as I said, most curriculums are outdated, irrelevant. So outdated is one thing, irrelevant is another thing. So in many cases, they are both irrelevant as well as outdated. And most of the times we are just having foreign textbooks, foreign case studies, foreign course materials, and many of the times the PPT, the lecture PPT that faculty uses also downloaded from Google from some North American professor's website. So all in all, what we are saying is that the entire curriculum has to be redesigned according to by the Indian faculty for Indian business schools in consultation with the alumni and other stakeholders. With not just the purpose of making our students smart enough to work in the industry, but also to make the learning more relevant for and updated for the Indian context. And I would agree with Professor Mishra when he said that Indian education really can't happen in the classroom. So while he said that it could be partly experiential and partly explanation, but I would say that most of the education, especially in this MBA program, has to be if I could redesign it, I would rather take it entirely out of the classroom. Because in the classroom, as you saw in the picture, that's not the conducive environment for education, right? And none of the education can really happen in such a big classroom where you have 100 or 80 students sitting and looking at the mobile phones while the faculty is looking at the blackboard, or maybe they're using a presentation, nobody is actually bothered, right? So most of the education has to move to experiential learning and other forms. I mean, at least not classroom, they have to go out, because we are talking about an applied. So MBA is an applied program. They have to go out, they have to dirty their hands, they have to get kicked in the pants and do all kinds of dirty stuff to learn. And experience and application is an integral part of it. Definitely conceptual inputs and explanation will also and should also be part of the learning. But I think I don't think that 2 year is the time we require for giving them conceptual knowledge. I don't think that much time is required. This is not rocket science, right? Most of MBA knowledge that we impart is common sense. So it can be done maybe in a couple of months' time, and most of the time our students should go out and learn in the field live projects or through internships or whatever you may call them, right? And one big problem that I see with MBA education in India is the campus placement. And if you look at the top business schools in the world, none of them have campus placement. The Harvard doesn't have the campus placement, the Stanford doesn't have, Boston doesn't have, a lot of Kellogg's doesn't have. None of these top B schools in the world have campus placement. They have placement, students go out and they talk to the recruiters and they do it on their own on one-to-one basis. But India is a very unique. Maybe other countries also may have it, but in India that becomes a very highlighting point that I'm Ahmedabad, I'm Bangalore, I'm Calcutta, I'm Indore. They're kind of highlighting their success in campus placements. Day zero, so much students have been placed. Even the business schools take pride in selling themselves through campus placements and average salaries and the kind of recruiters and the number of recruiters. I think that should be totally banned, because let students be allowed to go for placement, but none of the placement activities should be allowed on the campus, because and actually for the last 11 years in Calcutta, I see students really spending more energy and time and effort for their placements than for learning. And we hate to say that the learning is competing with placements, and that should not happen. The placement should be an outcome of learning, and it should not compete with the placement, right? So one of the solutions can be that you don't allow placements to happen on the campus, and maybe they can apply on their own. And it's very also important that our students have a prior work experience, relevant work experience when they get admitted, because most of the time when you're fresh out of college, you don't even know how does an organization look like. So an MBA program is largely based on organization, right? So if you don't know how an organization looks like, it becomes very, very difficult for you to understand organizational behavior or strategy or marketing or finance or IT or HR. And most of the students are clueless, so what they study from a typical textbook, they will just learn it and regurgitate, and that's not really the learning that we are looking for. The other menace is the accreditation menace, which I hate to say this, and I think most of the institutions will not like this kind of the stand. That what I'm saying is that this accreditation race, like ACSB and AMBAs and ICCBT, these are actually equally nuisance, just like placements, because they're typically that's another race. One is the ranking race, the other is the accreditation race. Now, every and any of these schools today are running after 3 or 4 of these accreditations, and they're chasing, and all of these agencies are just going after these schools and giving them accreditations. And if everybody gets it, then how does it really matter? But then that's how things are being. Market trend is kind of going that way, which I think is absolutely not adding any value to business schools, because eventually almost everybody gets it. Right, but all in all, I think that like a lot of the leaders from Steve, I think Steve Jobs said it, but more recently Elon Musk and others said it, that most of the degrees, and I would add to that MBA degree, and even Elon Musk has made that statement, which was controversial, that MBA spend more time filling PPTs and Excel sheets and board meetings than actually doing it. And so that's his frustration with the MBAs working in the industry. But I would say that most of the degrees would probably become irrelevant in the next 10 to 15 years. And an MBA degree probably, because it's not a technical degree, it's a general degree. It is possible that MBA degree, if you don't do anything very drastic with MBA program and its curriculum, it's possible that MBA degree might become irrelevant sooner than we think. Okay, so thanks a lot, and thanks for sharing, and thanks for your question.
Thank you so much, Professor Ramdendra. I guess the presentation is over also. Sir, thank you so much for your wonderful insights. And I really agree with you, specifically regarding that you mentioned regarding Industrial Revolution 4.0 and where exactly we are heading. And your special mention about the learning and the experiential learning, which is important. And one important insight for all the MBA students, that placements come secondary or tertiary. First, learning is important. And one important learning for academicians like us while taking the admission, that we can definitely see for the diversity of the background of the students. And we should definitely come up with a curriculum redesign with the help of the alumni. So we have a few questions from the participants, from the audience. We have one question from Mahur. She's an MBA student here. If MBA program is for 1 year, how can we implement the implementation or experiential knowledge be in place? Would we be having some space for those learning?
Yeah, I don't have an answer, Mahur, for that, but I'm sure, we always, this is not a new product. ISB and a lot of IIMs also already have a 1 year program. So, except that, they packed a lot of courses in the classroom in 1 year instead of doing it for 2 years. So, ISB always had a 1 year program. They never had a 2 year program. So, I'm saying instead of packing, X number of courses in 1 year, we can pack a lot of experiential learning modules or internships or any other kind of life projects into 1 year. So we have to substitute course-based learning and classroom-based learning with other forms of learning. So the time remains the same. So I think it's possible. Somebody has to put thought into that.
Next question is from Anam Firdaus. Sir, how you justify the point that even for admission in MBA, we should have experience when there is an increasing unemployment levels?
Yeah, but eventually after MBA, you will not remain unemployed, right? So, your MBA degree should not become a substitute for finding a job. And it's not mandatory to do an MBA, right? So, I'm not saying that everybody should do an MBA. Therefore, if you make work experience prior work experience, mandatory for MBA, then unemployed people will never be able to do an MBA. That is not true. Number one, MBA is not mandatory. Everybody doesn't have to do it. Secondly, unemployed will not remain unemployed throughout their life. So, first, find an employment. If you want to do an MBA, then work and then join an MBA, right? So I might say that, I don't think that's really, that critical that, unemployment maybe 10% or 15%, and I'm sure, that's not going to create a problem. We have an oversupply of aspirants. So those who are employed can always find experience and then join the program.
Danish, can we combine entrepreneurship with MBA, because these two are your views?
Yeah, MBA, I think many programs have done it. Many business schools have already done it. They're doing a good job. I don't have a really, I don't have an exact university in mind right now, but if you go to North America or Europe, a lot of the MBA programs themselves are on entrepreneurship, and they, or maybe they have a general management module and they have specialization in entrepreneurship. So a lot of these programs, if you do a simple search of these schools, you'll find that a lot of these business schools are actually blending general management with specialization on entrepreneurship or finance or other things. So that is already happening. So none of the ideas that I'm sharing, none of them are new. Most of it is anyway happening. But the problem is that we are not really prepared. I would go to the extent of saying that even faculty is not prepared, so I'm not prepared. Nobody knows what has to be done. Somebody has to tell me what has to be done. Forget about students, students, and that's unfortunate part. Students say, I'll join the school and then they'll tell me, I'll figure out a way. So we don't expect students to do something different because there's a structural problem. When the, sorry to say, the director and deans and faculty is clueless, we really have to do things fast and drastically put things in place so that we change ourselves, because then we invite students to come and experience a different kind of an MBA. So we have to change, and the business schools have to change. Which, I don't know if we are prepared for change.
Thank you so much.
We will go to the next speaker so that at the end
we can take it there.
Okay, sure, sir. So the next speaker with us is Dr. Sakhi Chhabra. Ma'am, your views, please.
Very good evening, everyone. I'll keep it short given the constraint on time. First of all, congratulations to the team ICCBT 2021. And also thank you participants for joining in. I pretty much echo the similar thought process as Professor Mishra and Professor Singh. I would not have too much to add on to it, because being a student, just a few years back, 7 years ago, I finished my MBA and then a PhD from MPI. So as a student, I have certain things which whatever both the professors have said is this is similar experience that I had. But a couple of things that I feel as a professor, now that it's been 4 years into teaching, I have some things to share. So first thing, definitely, when it comes to silos and holistic thinking approach, we really, as a student, I remember we used to have a very silo thinking. And now when I'm on the other side, I feel like the student has to actually have a holistic approach of thinking. So for in my basic class, sometimes in marketing management 1, if I'm asking a student first semester or a second while I'm teaching them marketing, advanced marketing, simple question like, how would you launch a new product for given constraint of resources during COVID, or how will you set the price or a promotional plan? A lot of answers are driven from a subject point of view, let's say in that case marketing, and it's not holistically being thought through that how the financial impact, how the impact of a launch will be there on the balance sheet, how the logistics and operation will work, how the communication will happen. So how the HR perspective will actually change. Will the salesperson be motivated enough to sell a particular product that you are bringing in? So that actually the thread is not being tied throughout the subjects. Professor Mishra, of course, said that holistic thinking is definitely missing. The second thing I feel, I think as an MBA, as a professor for an MBA program, my job is to make the other person a better decision maker. For even though I'm teaching one subject, but it is very important that I impart the ability to make them a better decision maker after that 90 minutes of a lecture, that they have a value addition. And to make that decision making ability, I have a lot of responsibility in bringing in a lot of different experiences from various subjects. I think when two professors together who have had an experience of being taught by two professors together was a I would say it was a great value addition, a great lecture that I still remember of a pharmaceutical company where a finance professor is also teaching along with a marketing professor. So that holistic thinking as well as the ability to make decision was really given in that lecture. Also, when it comes to rethinking MBA, I remember when I started as a PhD student, I did a study in my MBA college itself amongst 157 students for learning a simple technique called conjoint analysis. And I still have those results with me, where I asked the students, when you make a choice for an MBA institute, what is it that you actually look forward for? So we had a focus group discussion, and then we actually had that conjoint analysis with the data collection, etc. was done. And not to the surprise of these students, not to the surprise of the participants here, one of the first things they said was, we join an MBA for a placement, which I think I also at that point in time really thought through that it is like a job placement agency. Sad to say, but yes, it is. Followed by fees, followed by ranking and degree recognition. Nobody talks about curriculum. None of the focus within the focus group that we had, nobody spoke about why that particular lecture is important or subject is important. Infrastructure, alumni base, all of them were spoken to us at that point in time. The most important was placement and placement. That thinking has to be really changed. We really need to work on that aspect. And I think as a professor, that I have taken certain initiatives for experiential learning, for teaching, because I teach marketing research subjects, sometimes qualitative, take them out for observation, ask them to do in-depth interviews. What is missing is the loop, is the empathy part. The student sitting in the class is not able to empathize with the other person, not able to actually take away their own biases and think from a consumer's perspective, think from the other person's, the decision that they have to take. They're not able to actually think from the other person's perspective. They're not able to, sometimes what happens is they're not able to define the problem. Set aside ideating and prototyping. When you're not able to empathize and define, we can't move ahead. So for fulfilling that part of empathy and defining the problem and redefining MBA, we need to work on the curriculum aspect. And both the professors had already said that. One of the ideas which comes to my mind for that aspect is including liberal arts as part of our curriculum. I think sociology, subjects which are related to sociology, subjects which are related to anthropology, philosophy, psychology. Of course, psychology in terms of consumer behavior, OB, etc. are taught, but a little more emphasis on that part apart from experiential learning. And both that combination can be in the form of like rural immersion or social innovation programs by taking students outside the classroom. So again, similar points are coming up. They could actually choose an NGO, work towards it, just like the place, just like internship. When they go for internships, they work for a couple of months, come back and present the report. They need to actually work from a social innovation entrepreneurial aspect also. Plus, with the changing global trends and the technology, innovation is the differentiation for an MBA student, and that's what I feel managers and recruiters are also, when they come in, they question as to if you are innovative enough, you're able to present the idea. So if students are actually only looking for placements, then also you need to learn how to innovate, empathize, define the problem. So this is actually the root of everything, and holistically think through the problem. Another point that I would say as a faculty at Sambalpur that we have been given a briefing about and we are trying to impart in our curriculum is a mode of flipped classrooms, where live projects are being done in the sense that we collaborate with one of the industry practitioner and they bring in their problem and we discuss that in the class. Also, last point that I would like to make here is as a person who firmly believes, and I've written a lot of case studies and I firmly believe in that pedagogy, I think cases need to be developed by the faculty which are having a very regional perspective. So if I'm talking from like here at Sambalpur, we need to actually understand the weavers, the farmers' perspective from Odisha. Also, Indian perspective needs to be brought in the class because we are very different from US or other countries. So not just taking away the Harvard case and bringing it in the class where we are talking about a Tesla or an Uber and an Airbnb, where people, we've not even solved the basic issues of electricity. So that doesn't make sense. So we need to actually develop simulation and cases which are very regionally perspective. So when it comes to rethinking, last thing that I would say, rethinking MBA, responsibilities on all of us as students. We need to really change their mindset. It should not be just job driven. You need to empathize. You need to define the problem. From as faculty perspective, we need to really define the curriculum. And when we invite the recruiters, they need to be actually looking at the students not from just one perspective. They need to be looking at students from a perspective that they can actually help in growing the company as well as the society. So that has to be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sakhi, for your wonderful insights, specifically related to the value addition and decision-making abilities to be inculcated among the students. You mentioned about the psychology aspect that has to be there. Let me just tell everyone here and honorable dignitaries that today morning itself at 12, we had a session with Professor Pawan Mamidi. He has proposed, he's the director of Behavioral Science, Center for Behavioral Science, and he has proposed that we should be having one lab here, Behavioral Science Lab at NIT Srinagar. So hopefully we'll be definitely dealing with that very soon. And thank you for your wonderful insights regarding the live projects and the case development, which is at the regional level and the national level, but not the international level. We should be definitely focusing on that. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for wonderful insights. We'll take the questions later. Now I'd like to invite Professor Abrar Saiyed sir to share your insights. Sir, please, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to congratulate Tahir and his team and NIT Srinagar and all of you for this wonderful conference, and it's very relevant. Very important, yeah. So I have my faculties that I always admire, and nice to be with Sakhi and my friend Sumeet. Thank you so much, everyone. Just wanted to just know, I think all these points what Professor Mishra, Professor Singh and Professor Chabra have mentioned, they are all relevant. I give you just my perspective because I taught this course. I've been teaching this course from Old City Bazaar and from traditional business communities. What happened when I was a PhD student in IIM Ahmedabad, I realized that when I was teaching lots of B schools, business schools, they are B category or C category schools because you are a stipend, you wanted to have some quick money. And I realized that there's no what IIM people are offering and then the pedagogy or curriculum that doesn't fit with the large number of these schools. They are there in the different regions and small towns. So I was trying to bring those curriculum, and then I realized that they cannot read this 25 pages of long case studies, and they don't have this attention span. Now we all know that when we were studying, I think Shaki can also relate that we were. Now these kids are don't have this 5 to 8 minutes kind of attention span. Then how we are going to do this? How bring their attention? So I started doing this, and I think what is the problem? I think what we are discussing is still very top down. I think we should also check with the students what they want, what kind of issues they are coming up with. And also my research is I'm working with SMEs and looking at innovation and internationalization, and I teach entrepreneurship. So, and I try to teach this experiential learning, and where I feel that entrepreneurship cannot be taught but can be facilitated. And I think that's the reason I ask students to go in the market. I ask them to have a thela in Old City Bazaar and sell things and run an entrepreneur venture for at least 3 months and learn from their mistakes. Because why is very important? Because these are the concepts, but where they get the opportunity of application. So like right now I'm teaching a course on succession planning in family businesses. I ask students to work with the family members and their venture and then actually come up with the problems and solutions. I think that is what is very important. So I think what is happening is our whole curriculum or MBA programs are designed keeping this I think all the panelists have mentioned about that keeping the Western values in mind. So like if you are an entrepreneur, especially if you want to so so if you want to run a business, you need to deal with business communities like Parsis, Sindhis, Marwadis, Pujas. Our MBA programs don't teach that how they do business. If they want to actually learn, if you are entrepreneurship course, if you look at all the entrepreneurship courses in all the IIMs and top institutions, they don't teach you how to deal with SMEs. What are the challenges if you run a startup factory? So my course where I teach I help students. It's a compulsory course, but it is like introductory course where students can get exposure of entrepreneurship in different contexts. So they go to old city markets, they go to business communities, they go to family businesses, they go to SMEs, they go to social enterprises, and understand the entrepreneurship exists in different contexts, and then take decisions whether they want to take up entrepreneurship or not. So I think what is important is I think we have to give students more. I think it's kind of like empowerment kind of thing where we ask students what they want and what kind of subject they want to learn. Our cases are too long, as Sakhi mentioned about that they are all westernized. We don't have cases of local businesses in local regional businesses. They are small SMEs. Lots of and big market of placement is SMEs. After agriculture, small micro medium enterprises are actually is the second largest sector in India. But we don't aspire our students to join those companies. Those are 50 crore rupees or 100 crore rupees firms. We always think that what IIM students are going to BCG, McKinsey. I think the B grade, C grade colleges should be doing that. I think so. What is happening? We need to do lots of churning. I think kind of that we all know about this the process where this Shiva, I think. Drank this poison. I think is kind of churning. We have to really it's kind of manthan. We have to really rethink the whole MBA programs, what we are offering, and are we offering to whom? Children coming in Srinagar, in this NIT Srinagar, they're studying. Are the same? Their context is same like I am Ahmedabad students. Are their background? So then if their backgrounds are different, their context is different. Then how can we just copy paste that curriculum and idea and mindset and then offer to the students. So we have to think about all these questions. Those are interesting questions, and as Professor Mishra has talked about that, we need to really rethink about it, and I think it's a great opportunity. But my submission to the participant is, I think we should ask students understand the context, understand the region, understand what kind of industries are available, what kind of jobs potentially. Though Professor Singh is very radical in that nature, that saying that no placement, but I think lots of students aspire to join MBA program for. I think it's a mindset issue, but I think it's important that we should understand that what are the SMEs, what kind of industries are there, and what kind of job requirements or the skills requirements are there, and maybe design that kind of program. It would be great. Like, I'm in Ahmedabad University. I just left and I'm joining a university in Istanbul this month. But in Ahmedabad University, we started this called Root Camp project, where students every year spend 8 hours in a company for 2 years. So what happens is every Monday and Wednesday they go to the particular assigned company and they get a faculty mentor. So then they connect with this company. They actually apply and they get chance to apply all the learnings when they actually visit 8 hours in a week, and then they actually try to solve the real life problem in that company, and then after those 2 years, couple of them get placed in those companies. So I think it's very interesting way to actually learn from the while studying the MBA program, because I think I know that the kind of courses I had in first year, first term. If you ask me that how am I going to apply right now, I will not be able to do that. So it's very, very important that we don't only teach the concept but also teach how to apply. And I think that is so important that and also giving the feedback on the application. So I think and very, very important understanding that how students can be engaged and learn themselves. So my course on understanding Indian Bazaar, what I offer in Indore, the classes start from morning 12, then we have a 4 hours of field work, and we come back and we have reflection sessions. So students spend around a good amount of time, around 12 hours for the course, but you find them, they are so engaged, they are so participative, and they are not the kind of students Professor Singh showed in the classroom. So I think it's very, very important that students themselves engage and they create their own learning environment. I think that would be interesting for students. So I think trying to understand that, I think if we have a more student-centric approach, understand the context, and I think also understanding the different region, different industry, and different contexts, and then trying to create programs that would be more regional, more student-centric, and more participative and engaging, I think then we will be able to do a good job. I think with that note, I think I'll ask, I'm happy to answer questions, but and I think Danish was asking about the entrepreneurship, so I think Danish will have offline discussion around that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Abrar, sir. Thank you for all your insights, specifically regarding the empowering the students for their own interest. You talked about aspiring students for SMEs. That's one good approach that we can definitely go about finding some spaces for students. You mentioned about applications, which is very important. Application should be kept in consideration by learning. And student engagement and student-centric approach is important. So with this, we'll definitely go on with changing the dynamics of MBA program. Now, last but not the least, we have another speaker, another dignitary with us, Mr. Sumeet Mohanty, the founding director of Phycolinc Technologies. Sir, we are happy to have you here. Your views, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Dr. Abrar, for introducing me. And congratulations to all of you for this wonderful event. I think I'm the only person here who does not have an MBA. And after seeing the first slide of Dr. Ramdendra, I don't think I'll be doing an MBA in the near future. So, but it was a great learning experience for me listening to all of you. You took me back to my engineering days when we used to just sit blank in the classroom, not knowing, what is happening. And even if we knew what is happening, we didn't know why it is happening. I mean, our professors taught us how to do things. They never taught us why we are doing the things that we want to do. And so, I mean, most of you, all of you have given so many excellent points that I do not wish to add to it. I just want to share a small personal experience. I did my engineering at IIT Kharagpur from 2007 to 2011. And after 2.5 years in college, I was almost lost. I had no idea why I'm doing this course, why I was doing that course. And, like I said, I knew how to do a lot of things. I just did not know why I was doing the things that I was doing. And it was during this time that I went to an immersion program. It was organized by a NGO, and it was in Delhi. And it was a 14-day program. And it was, something so different from everything that I was doing back in college. So the first day of the program, they took us out to Connaught Place. And, they divided us into groups of 2. And they told us that, you have to go and talk to a beggar on the street of Connaught Place and understand why he is begging. And that was a radical experience for me because I had never talked to a beggar for more than 2 minutes. Okay. So out there on the streets of Connaught Place, I had to search for a beggar. And so at that point of time, it was difficult to find a beggar there because they had cleaned up most of the beggars and sent them to some other place. So it was with a lot of difficulty that we found a beggar next to a temple. And, talking to that person, it was a very different experience for me. So, the program continued for 14 days and 5 days in Delhi. And after 5 days, we were taken to a very remote place in Jharkhand, extremely remote. So in Jharkhand, you have a district called Saiyed, and one of the most backward, people groups there in Saiyed are the Malto tribes. And there amongst the Malto tribes, where we were put up in a hospital which is being run by Emmanuel Hospital Association. And so it was quite interesting, experience for me there. I remember we used to get up early in the morning at around 4:30, walk for 3 hours, 4 hours to reach, communities and understand how these communities run, how do the economics run, how do they earn their living, what is the healthcare system, which was non-existent, what is the agricultural system. And I remember one such trip which I took, we left at 6 a.m. in the morning. We reached this place at around 9:30, 10. At 10, we walked for another 3 hours through literally dense forest to reach a community of probably 25-30 small huts. And upon reaching that community, we found that all the men were missing in that community. There were just the women there, and we were kind of shocked. I mean, where are all the men? And we asked around, and we learned that that day in that village, a person had a baby had died because of diarrhea. Day before, a baby had died because of diarrhea. 4 days back, a baby had died because of diarrhea. And, and we went to meet the mother of one of the babies who had died that day. The mother wasn't even crying. She was like, matlab, theek hai, mar gaya. Because death was so common in that place. Right? And that, it shook me. We were in tears and it shook me. I had never imagined, staying 20-21 years in a city, that there existed a place like this in this country. And I came back a different person. I skipped my placements because people literally told me that, you're stupid to go to an IIT and not sit for placements. But I decided that I will do something more with what whatever knowledge I have than, just working for a Barclays Capital or working for a consultant McKinsey. Went and I, worked for a social enterprise for a couple of years. And after that, I left it, did some environmental projects for another 3 years. And in 2016, I started up. Currently, we are working in the space of sustainable agriculture, wherein we are working with farmers amongst the tribal regions of Gujarat. And one is we are providing them very cheap organic products and providing them with a lot of information regarding organic farming. And one of the things that we are planning on doing is, also ensuring that they have market access. We also do a lot of work with industries for environmental remediation. So that is another, business line that we have. So, the reason I'm sharing this is because, like so many of you have said, I just wanted to bring my experience to tell you, it really works. Just take a student, take 10 students, put them in the midst of poverty, let them see the actual India. And I'm sure that 5 of them are going to respond and they will find out ways to, solve problems for those communities. A couple of days back, I think, I was reading an article that Tesla is coming to India. And they said that India has got a population of 1.367 billion people. And we are targeting the 0.067 out of the 1.367. The problem is that we are teaching our students to aspire to work for the 0.067 billion people only, forgetting that there are 1.3 billion people who need solutions to the everyday problems. And thank you, all of you. Thank you so much for bringing out these points. I just wanted to share my experience. Because I do not know a lot about what goes on in an MBA classroom, but a couple of things, just off the top that I was just thinking while I was listening to all of you. I think that maybe, right from the start, when we are, selecting students, if we also analyze them for their social bent of mind, like, select students not just on the basis of the marks that they have, but also on the basis of, maybe the social projects that they have done, or maybe if they've interned in a school, or maybe, ask them to write an essay on, some social project that they have done. Like, you have a number of B schools in the US, doing that. So that is one way of, probably screening students right from the start, students who might have a social bent of mind in the future. Another thing is, and this is a very practical problem. See, there are a number of business, I don't know about NIT Srinagar in particular, but, from what I understand, a business course costs anywhere between 15 lakhs to 25 lakhs, right? And so a student going through a business course would probably be taking a 10-15 lakhs loan. Some might not, but a number of students will. If I have a 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs loan on my back, there is the only thing that I am thinking is how do I get out of college and, pay for that loan, right? So I think there needs to be some sort of a incentive program for students who, maybe incentivize them on their fees with, with some sort of a, like NUS does, right? National University of Singapore does. If you study at NUS, you have to work in Singapore for 5 years. So can't we incentivize the students and say that we'll slash your fee by half if after that, for 2 years, you're working in a rural program, or for 3 years, you're working in a social sector? Then that is going to incentivize, students, not all of them, some of them, if there's, costs are cut down by half. So just a few, practical suggestions. But yeah, I think it is great that, your institution is thinking along these lines as to how to get students to contribute socially. I think more institutions need to think along similar lines. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mohanty, for your wonderful insights. your very first line that was related with what and why, that is the most important thing, and one MBA aspiring student must know the scope before joining it. The next thing which you mentioned was about your experience, how exactly your life changed just by visiting the rural places in your hometown or in your state. The most important thing is empathizing is the one important aspect, empathizing with the society as well as with the environment. So I think the word which was missed was critical thinking, that we should be definitely thinking about, and it is most important for learning in the MBA programs. So with this, we come to the end, but we can definitely have some questions.
I think, sir, to Sushanta, sir, I have this kind of observation, sir. Recently, we saw that Elon Musk said that MBAs actually graduates are taking out the creativity of innovators and companies, and he is strongly of the opinion that we should not hire MBAs in our companies. So I think some way down the line in future, if the trend continues, I think companies will definitely stop hiring MBAs. So what's your solution for that?
Okay, I mean, I can share with you what we are doing here at IIM Indore. After first year, the MBA program here is 2 years, the regular program. So after first year, if somebody wants to pursue entrepreneurship, they need not attend the classes. So we have our incubation center. The institute will provide all the support. But one condition is they need not sit for the placements, and they will get a degree on MBA in entrepreneurship. So we have started that, and the incubation center is now coming up well. So we are encouraging people to think something, and do something, contribute in a better way to the society. That is first part of the story. Second part of the story, it's always easier to say there is some problem in the existing system. It's right, we are also experts in that, right? But we don't talk about changing it, we say what could be the satisfying solution, right? So maybe some incremental changes can happen, radical change we may not be able to make, right? There are so many organizations who wants to grow, right? And the managers can actually contribute immensely. And probably we can't look at India through the lens of North America. That's what Prof. Ramdendra Singh said. And that's probably we need to develop ourselves. And maybe coming 100 years, we will be the superpowers. Then we will dictate the terms for other countries. So at this point, MBA, I don't think MBA's relevance will go down in coming years. In fact, to me, it may spread. And as you might have seen, the public policy areas are growing. And sociology, all those things are coming into this. For example, PLEN, right? It's a liberal arts school, but it's MBA, right? So many organizations, most of the IIMs now they're starting with this integrated programming management, where if you see the first 3 years, it is mostly very similar to liberal arts. So it's growing. I don't see the relevance of MBA will go down, but the scope of it might increase. I'm sorry, I gave a long answer to a short question.
Thank you so much.
We have one question from Dr. Sadaf Firdaus. It's a very long question, but I'll cut it short. COVID-19 has forced organization to adopt a different work culture, mostly the work from home one. This has changed so much about HR management. So do you think, does this mean that the whole previous curriculum of HR or OB, etc., will have to be restructured?
Not necessarily. There are some fundamentals which is there. But probably it gives us the ability to see what can be done to handle uncertainty. So, a lot of debates are happening. How do organizations prepare themselves to address the VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world outside. So that is the takeaway. And how do we build resilience? All those things in my employees. It is not going to eliminate what we are teaching, but it will give more avenues to explore more and contribute to our student manager.
So there was one question from Omer, which already Professor Ramdendra sir has already answered. The question was, what are the practical aspects of learning that we may have missed if we stick to conventional book learning in an MBA program? Sir, you have already answered, but do you want to elaborate anything further, Professor Ramdendra?
I think I've already covered that in the in my presentation also. But if Omer has any specific question beyond that, we have all covered that. Mr. Mishra also covered that, and I think Mr. Saiyed also covered that. That the focus has to be more on experiential learning and less on the book-based learning. Whether you design around internships or life projects or any which way, or immersion programs, as Professor Mohanty is also saying. So any mix of these would be very, very, make the students more application oriented rather than, book oriented. So does that answer your question,
I hope so. I hope so. If he has any questions.
Ramdendra sir, recently we have seen many business schools have introduced rural marketing as a subject. Do you feel there are such other courses that need to be introduced as well?
Yeah, I mean, rural marketing is important, but I would enlarge the scope of your question. Taking this opportunity, I would like to also share one thought that see, most of the courses that we teach in these schools, at least what I have seen, is it looks like this. Corporate finance, managerial accounting, cost accounting, rural marketing, brand management, and similar such things around the way. I mean, so I think the way these courses are structured, as I think Professor Chabra was also saying, and I think a lot of us are saying that, they themselves are creating silos. If you are running courses, if you are offering courses that look like brand management, entrepreneurship, IT for managers, rural marketing, then we ourselves are creating silos. And while many of us panelists are saying that we have to destroy the silos rather than create the silos. So if we are ourselves creating silos by offering courses which themselves are not interdisciplinary, and I think example was given by Professor Shabra that how two faculty, and it happens quite frequently in many B schools like USB schools where, for example, I remember when I went to Harvard Business School as part of a faculty development program, and many of us have gone there. We were told that there is a particular course in Harvard Business School which itself is called only entrepreneurship, but to destroy the or to make the course more interdisciplinary, the same course is handled in different ways. Of course, the accounting professor will come and teach the financial aspects of entrepreneurship. Then the strategy professor will come and talk about strategy making and strategy implementation for startup that, the next, the marketing professor can come and talk about how do entrepreneurs market their product, how to do product development, how do they expand the markets. So the same course has many aspects, as Professor Agro was also saying, multi-dimensional. So we need to teach the courses in that way. Rather than saying rural marketing will be taught by Professor Vani or Professor Saiyed or Professor Singh, which makes the course entirely belonging to marketing. And we are creating silos ourselves, and then we are thinking that students themselves will integrate the learning in their mind. That is not going to happen. So we have to bring them multidisciplinarity into the class. They're going to say that if my colleague from finance is making the balance sheet of a startup company, I should, and once he or she has explained the balance sheet, I can take over after 30 minutes and say that what is the marketing perspective of that balance sheet, or somebody else can talk about, how does the product development, what is the finance side of product development, an entrepreneur can say what is the entrepreneurial dilemma in product development, how is it different from product development in large organizations, right? Or Dr. Saiyed, who teaches in SME, how is product development a challenge in SMEs? They don't have capabilities. Talk about capability building and R&D. So there are so many aspects to the same subject. So we need to just to cut short the answer to answer your question. Yes, we should have many such courses. Whether you, for example, in Calcutta, I have been teaching this course called Marketing to Bottom of Pyramid for last 11 years. Inspired by Professor book, which was called How to at the Bottom of Pyramid. So we are teaching that, and my research also is focused on that. I guess yours is also quite focused on that. So, but again, that's also partly my failure. When I teach it, I teach alone. So I can also bring in, say, a rural marketing professor or a finance professor, or a sociologist, or an anthropologist who can talk about poverty. An anthropologist about his own perspective. So we are failing there. We are failing to integrate our courses in the classroom with them. Or maybe then the classroom can come alive I don't know if the picture that I've shown will change if we start doing that or not, but a lot of integration has to be done to destroy the sand. Okay.
Dr. Sakhi, you can just continue.
I just wanted to add one question to a point I would say now, that we as professors have to ask ourselves, can you really teach rural marketing in a class? That question has to be asked. Can you actually empathize with that woman sitting in the hills who's selling probably mufflers or honey, and in a class by saying 4 A's of rural marketing: accessibility, availability, affordability? That needs to be asked in our academic counseling meetings. Can you really do that? Can you can you actually put a concept in the mind of the audience who's sitting in the class, and can you pull their learning and bring it in execution in a rural marketing setup? That we need to really think through. So we need to redefine. I agree with sir. Kind of redefinition with respect to the anthropologist and sociologist coming into the class and bringing in, and we need to push the students out. Go rural immersion, social innovation, empathize, join NGOs, figure out what the ground level realities are. Don't do armchair activities sitting in the classroom and saying, we'll do this, we'll do that. So that needs to be changed. Thank you.
Dr. Abrar?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I think, building on what Professor Singh and Professor Chabra mentioned, Professor Mishra must be knowing that we were part of one course called Managing Non-Profit in Indore. So I used to start the class, I used to start the course, and I used to, it was like, I used to take students for 3 hours of fieldwork in a slum nearby, and then it was very overwhelming for them because they never been part of the slum, and taking I am 60 students to the slum and 4 hours, and I used to divide them in groups and say that you identify one issue in the slum, and then throughout the course they have to build a non-profit around that. So I used to take up the perspective strategy and then starting the project. And then every faculty, so Professor Mishra used to teach OB, and then Professor Manoj used to teach marketing. So what we're doing that we're trying to, it was an experiment. We didn't have very good experience with that course. Students didn't understand that, but I think it was an experiment, and I think we are planning to do again. But this is kind of thing what we have to do, that is also connecting the dots, and I think integrating the things is very, very important. But it was very overwhelming response. Some of the students liked it, some of the students didn't like it, but I think this kind of experiment should be done. And I think my teaching is, I use also sociology and anthropology in my teaching, because I realized that sociologists, and I think liberal arts, and I'm teaching another course in SEPT University, they are having, in other disciplines have lots of field work. I think surprisingly, we MBA program, we like to take concepts from different disciplines, but we don't accept the pedagogy from the different disciplines. We think our pedagogy of case study is is the best pedagogy of teaching or something. I think it's very, very important. Not only we bring the concepts of psychology, sociology, and anthropology, but also we bring those pedagogy of teaching and I think maybe have a interdisciplinary plus pedagogical perspective maybe, and then it would be very, very beneficial for the students.
We have Dr. Abid Sultan Sahab from Agriculture University of Kashmir University. Please, sir, if you want to have...
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Anwar. And good evening, everyone. Well, it was really great to listen to everyone. And whatever was discussed, it was perfectly apt to the theme of today's session. I just want to ask one thing. Maybe you people can correct me on that. Do you think it's a high time for us, to all the management institutes across the country, that we have to now redefine our inputs? Because, there was a time in India when MBA people were very less. Now we have reached to that point where in every street you have the management school, every corner of your district or your maybe state, you have 1 or 2 or 3 or more institutes offering the same degree. Let us redefine our input and make it not only the BBA or the BCom or BCom honors or people from the economics be enrolled for our management degree, which can be 2-year program, and then maybe for advanced diploma, certificate courses, 6 months courses, we can have all those people who really want to improve their job prosperity, or who are want their skill refinement for the industry. Because it's a high time, because whatever the input is coming to us, it may be from BA stream, and then what Professor Sakshi was saying, do actually we can make someone in 2 years, and after cutting all the exam schedules, after cutting the holidays, we are left, I guess, only with a 1 year, and in 1 year we have to train a student to be a manager. Is it a high time that we just refine our input and be specific? For example, if someone has to do MSc Physics, so they only take BSc who has done from the science stream, and then only enroll them in their specialized stream. This is my question to all the people, all the dignitaries present here.
Okay.
Thank you.
So may I answer? I'll try to answer your question. It's a good question. But for example, Sumeet is here. He is an engineer, right? He has not done any BBA, but he is a great entrepreneur, right? So we are talking about MBA, Management in Business Administration. So it doesn't come with we want to train them some business skills, irrespective of whether you're coming with history, geography, or whatever background. At the end of the day, you want to do business, right? So that's what we want to do. Right, so we don't want to restrict it to some, like the example you said, BSc, then MSc, not like that. Because the question we are actually struggling with is, how do you ensure the learning happens in the management course? And the entry barriers, I don't think it should be there. The urge to know, to do business, to contribute to society should be there. I agree, CAT is not the appropriate things, but I know most of us agree that the weightage of CAT is going down and down every year. So that's happening in most of the IIMs. They're finding a different criteria to select the right people to their programs. So hope it answered. Yeah.
Yes, Dr.
Just a small thing. I do not think that we should actually filter that criteria of taking up somebody from a particular, let's say, BBA background for an MBA. The essence of an MBA class is when there are people from varied backgrounds which bring different thought processes, which bring different worldviews, where after the decision, when it is made, is actually very interesting to look at. So in recent times, I was reading an article where PNG is actually selecting people who from English literature background who are interested in poetry, in order to actually, what I was talking while I was my turn, that empathy factor is actually a part of English literature. While in PNG, when they have to develop a product or understand the consumer needs, that factor actually brings in a really good essence. So my point here is, having people from different backgrounds brings a better holistic understanding for solving an issue in the class and afterwards. So somebody from an X background, when meets the Y background, actually try and understand from a physics perspective what was the solution. From a biotechnology, somebody is coming in the class and they're really different worldviews. So I don't think we should filter that criteria of selecting people from a particular background for an MBA. I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful insights. Well, we have a few questions. I'll just wind up after taking those questions. One question is from Danish, specifically to Professor Mishra. What kind of implementation can be done on the basic level institute or with the institute which have just started, like us, NIT Srinagar? That how can we implement, which are limited with financial support to implement such?
So one thing that we usually overlook, and Professor Ramdendra might agree with my views, that the entry of the faculty members you choose is very critical, because they should be energetic, they should believe in the mission of this institution. That's critical, because once the faculty enters, they will be there for 30 years or whatever it is, right? So it is difficult to change their orientation. Please spend time and energy to find out the right people. Number two, you need to sit down and decide where we are heading. You have to decide. We do that, and the IPM program we started here, that is because of that thought. We wanted to say, well, when our students come after their engineering or with some work experience, it is difficult to mold them. And also, as Ramdendra was saying, about 80% of them are engineers. We wanted to have diversity. So that was the starting point for this integrated program in management, where you don't teach anything about management in the first 3 years. We teach them basic sociology, basic psychology, all basic foundations of management, not management. Right? So at the end, 2-3 points are important. One, the promoters should believe in management learning. That's one. The faculty members should be very energetic to contribute to the society. Number 3, you need to say where we are heading. That some clarity should be there, and that buy-in among the members, the faculty colleagues should be there. Then you can make this institution a great institution.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is one last question from Dr. Umar Mufid, as we are very young faculty members. So this question is for Professor Ramdendra. Sir, what are your views on the term quality teaching in contemporary higher academic context? Professor Ramdendra.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think I've already answered that. I don't have a specific, input on that. So, quality teaching, I mean, there is no doubt about that is important. So as Professor Mishra also said that.
Sir, we are trouble listening you, Professor Ramdendra. Maybe your internet connection is lagging.
Professor Abrar wants to add something.
In the meantime, Professor Abrar.
This building on the basis of instructor feedbacks and coach feedbacks. So if you're measuring the faculty performance on the basis.
Professor Ramdendra, if you can hear me, your internet is lagging. Your internet is lagging.
Student feedback. Okay. I don't know how to solve that problem. But yeah, I'll try and repeat that. Is the voice clear now?
Yes, sir.
Is that okay? Okay, so I was just saying, to make it short, I was just saying that it's a structural problem of how we define quality and how we define teaching. So if teaching, bad incentives produce bad results, right? So if you are measuring the faculty on the basis of course feedbacks and instructor feedbacks, the faculty will maximize the feedback, right? The focus will not necessarily be on teaching, right? It will be on maximizing the output of teaching, which is learning feedback or the student feedback. And most of us who have spent enough time in academics know that quality teaching is not equal to quality feedback, right? And that's an area that is very sensitive. I'll not go into that right now because of constraint of time. But if you want quality teaching, you have to measure the quality teaching and incentivize quality teaching, and not necessarily anything else. So you have to define what is quality teaching. If quality teaching, at a very basic level, it is about student learnings and learning outcomes. Learning outcomes, will only happen when students themselves are interested in learning. So we have to set expectations of learning outcomes. What outcomes are we expecting from students? What outcomes are students expecting from themselves? Are we on the same platform? Are we setting an expectation which is different from students' expectation? Are we trying to meet their expectation or our expectation? Are they same? So I think we need, as many of us have said, we need to really have a dialogue with students, other than having dialogue with stakeholders, where we have a common denominator as to, whether are we teaching for the same purpose? Are we teaching for the sake of teaching them because we have courses to run, we have an institute to run, we have accreditation to answer to? Are we doing all this for running our systems, or are we doing this from the students' learning point of view?
So again, we are facing the same issue. Yes. Professor Abrar, your views.
I wanted to just build on what Professor Mishra was mentioning, I think, about the newer institution. I think I was part of Ahmedabad University, and we realized that the students coming to our university are mostly coming from family businesses and entrepreneur background. So we designed the MBA program in a manner that actually fulfills the kind of creating a niche where our MBA program also gives kind of learning to these people who are going to be managing the family business, or entrepreneurship. So I think what is also important for a newer organization to create a differentiation in terms of identifying those niche segment, and also identifying that how you can actually create value. Also understanding the local context and the types of students coming in, and maybe designing the courses rather just bringing the courses very popularly known. So I think what Professor Mishra mentioned about the kind of faculty and other support system, and also the institution should allow, like Ahmedabad University allowed me to do experimentation and know kind of with the courses and research. I think that if we can do together, I think then students and the faculty would be will get benefits of that. Yeah.
So I think before we wind this session up, the main idea behind holding such an event or such a talk was that at NIT Srinagar we just have started our MBA course, and the whole notion and idea of starting this MBA course is to create how to make this course all together a different course that is being offered at IITs, IIMs and other business schools. So I will very much invite you all dignitaries to be a part of this journey with us and help us to create a MBA course that is very different and is experiential in learning, so that we set an example for other B schools as well. So we have that flexibility here with us. Our administration is supporting us. The whole NIT Srinagar is with us. So I hope that you all will help us to be the change that we all are seeking. It's an open invitation to you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, all the dignitaries, for joining with us today with this important session, the plenary session for Rethinking MBA, which is an important and integral part of our conference, that is ICCBT. We wanted to have another guest. His name is Dr. Rahul Mirchandani. Unfortunately, he couldn't join with us. But we have signed, I just want to let everybody know that we have already signed an MOU with his company. He's basically an entrepreneur. He's an MD of Aries Agro Limited, and we have signed an MOU with him. And we have also signed an MOU with NIT Kshetra, just like Professor Mishra has said that we need to collaborate, and that's what we exactly are doing. So thank you everyone for joining with us, and I'd like to congratulate every dignitary to be on board as a mentor for MBA programs at MBA program for NIT Srinagar. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you all participants, and thank you all the team members of ICCBT. Thank you, students. Thank you for posting the questions. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Signing off today. Tomorrow we have one session with we have one session at 10 a.m. Then we'll be having some technical session. At the end, we'll be having Professor Justin Paul as the chief guest for the valedictory session. That again starts at 6 p.m. Tomorrow. So we'll definitely come up with the new links, and it will be shared to you. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Mir, sir. You were, for the whole day, you were there. Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. I was just watching the screen for the whole day.
Morning I could not because of 2G, because basically I am in Jammu. I am from Jammu. This time at my residence in Safaveli. I tried very hard at 9:30 to join, but could not at 11. I think about 11 I joined.
Yes, sir. I did
not sign out because with the care that I could not log in again.
Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Thank you, sir. It's an inspiration to us.
Today, and very august speakers from India and abroad were there. I congratulate you for this program.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, you are an inspiration for us. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Most welcome.
Okay, thank you.